And here we are with Norman Wimpy from Vicenza High School, only 30-something years later. And have you seen a couple of the episodes yet?
Yeah, I have. I watched the one, I forget her name. She's in Hawaii. She's the dean of the school.
Melanie. Yeah.
Melanie. I'm sorry. She's probably angry at me now for forgetting her name. And the one with Barry Penicky. I watched most of that one too. I don't know if I got all of it. But hey, let me start off with something first. I want to get this out there right away. I wanted to apologize to you for scaring the heck out of you on that one Boy Scout trip. I don't know if you remember that. You know, Boy Scouts are supposed to be fun, and you touched on it a bit with Barry. It's supposed to be fun, and I hope we didn't put you off scouting because of that. I hope you I can't remember if you stayed in Scouts, but you know, we were older kids. We really crossed the line with you there, but I hope you accept my apology for it.
Oh, I totally do. Yeah. I think it's funny. I stayed. It was always to see what the next monster was. There was always a monster wherever you went camping next.
Yeah.
And I think this was Doc Romero's thing by design, because that guy you couldn't read him. He's like, yep, there's a guy out there. He's going to get you. I mean, you know, that Flish Flop, right?
Oh, yeah.
Some supposed crazed circus performer that was rolling around on wheels or something that had
out in the woods. Figure it out. How are you going to roll on wheels in the woods?
And, you know, and it's always smart to think we should go camping near this guy. But if it wasn't just that, then we'd go camping. Did you ever go down to the Fiume, the river, which was kind of like a swamp kind of area? And he'd make us do survival training, like just bring a poncho, don't bring a tent. You're going to use your poncho.
I think I may have done that once. I can't remember.
Well, I do remember. I mean, I think you were going out with Rika Tamura at the time, I think. Or that was another.
Okay, that might make sense. Yeah, I think we did something like that. I remember doing a lot of different camping trips with him. And that's funny, Doc Romero. Yeah, he was the first scoutmaster when I was there.
He lived for it. I don't know if he was getting payback or what, but it's all good, man. It was just preparedness. Yeah. But who else was there? The Liska brothers were there, and Xavier Brunson. And
when you said his name in the message the other day, that brought back a memory. Yeah, I remember him. I mean, he's one of those faces that I remembered from scouting, but I didn't remember his name until you said it. I remember Xavier, but I didn't remember his last name. He was in our patrol. We did a lot together with him with Scouts.
Well, you know, I had a tent with him, and little did I know this guy's gonna grow up to be a general in the Army someday.
You were there at the beginning.
Yeah, I was listening. He's very analytical, very good at conversation, very forward thinking, and I'm like, oh, this interesting guy. And then there was.
I mean, he seemed intelligent. Even that he didn't seem like a stupid kid like the rest of us at that time. So maybe that's the secret. Maybe people, grown-ups, spot that and they focus their attention on him and let the rest of us go off and do stupid things. I don't know.
What year did you come there, and where were you coming from when you came to Italy?
Well, first we were supposed to go there in 1975, but my dad's orders got changed and he got sent to Korea instead. But then we finally arrived there in 1978. We were coming from Savannah, Georgia. My dad had been stationed at Hunter Army Airfield for a year or two. And man, I'm glad I didn't have to go to high school in Georgia. I'm glad I went to high school in Vicenza because, it was definitely a much better experience.
I find that with a lot of people, they get the upgrade. And maybe they didn't realize it at the time, then they realized it later. Because when you're a kid, you're sampling things. You're like, oh, this is cool. They have this over here. Oh, and then you go to another, especially being a military kid, you bounce around a bit. But it is, it's very interesting how it affects your life, and it gives you a global view of things. So you were there from 78 to what year?
To 82.
82? Did you graduate there in 82?
Yes, I did. I was there from 9th grade through graduation. And it's funny, in my yearbook, my senior yearbook, I have a breakdown of the people who were there the entire 4 years. There were like 15 of us, I think, maybe 8. I'd have to go get the book and look. But there were a few people that were there from day one of 9th grade until we graduated. Like you mentioned, Rika Tamura, she arrived about halfway through our freshman year, but she stayed through graduation. but there were some other ones. Monica Ritchie, of course, was there the entire time. Jack Porter was there. A couple of other people were. I could look them up there, but yeah, it was a good experience. It was great being able to go there for the entire 4 years. And I liked when Barry said that he came back after leaving Vicenza so that he could have his senior year there. That just lets you know the quality of the school that we had at that time. I don't know how it is now. It could be terrible. But I thought it was a great school, a great education, and it's just an experience that helped shape my life. Here's a funny thing.
Sure.
So I leave Vicenza, right? I'm graduated. I come back to the States, and I join the Army. I go to basic training. I go to AIT and jump school. And I meet this guy in AIT. We're friends. We go to jump school together. We're both at Fort Bragg. He's in 5th Special Forces Group as a support guy, and I'm in 27th Engineer Battalion. And he comes over one day. He says, "Hey, let's drive down to Fort Jackson. My girlfriend's graduating from basic training." I said, "Okay, cool. Let's do it." So we ride down there. We go. We watch her graduate, and we're walking through this basic training company. And Captain Wade Lipsey walks up. Now, you probably didn't know him, but he was later on my senior year. He dated my girlfriend's sister briefly, so I knew him. He was a lieutenant in the 509th at that time. Now he's a captain commanding a basic training company. And he sees me. He says, "Norm, how's it going?" And we talk, blah, blah, blah. So as we're walking away, my friend from basic and AIT says, "Wow, you really did go to school in Italy, didn't you?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh, no one believed you. They thought you were just making that up." And I thought, who would make up such a thing? Come on. So
I get it.
Really an unbelievable start.
I had that same experience in the Navy because here I was, 19, baby face, rolling up to a ship with these salty sailors that sailed all over, the Westpac, and and I'm telling them stories. Yeah, we're at this disco in Milano, or no, all these models from Milano at this disco, and we're just drinking these gin and tonics, and it's like a 3-story villa. He's like, "Man, quit making up those stories, man.
Oh,
Stop
yeah.
it. Stop already with your tall tales." Like they were ready. It took them years. Maybe that's why I'm doing the podcast, testimony. Like we have to prove each other's backstories that seem too incredible for other people to, take in.
Oh yeah. So, some things you just don't tell people about because you don't know if they'll believe it or not. I don't know. But, hey, here's another good Boy Scout story about camping. And this ties in, we're going to tie this thread together to one of your other ones. This is my Barry Penicky memory. Actually, I have a couple that involve Barry, but this is a good one. Remember we'd go up into the mountains and there was that clearing with the big rocks in it. It was right under a cliff. Mm-hmm. And we would have a bonfire there and do skits. And they were doing some skit where it was a song, and the chorus, the refrain of the song was, "If I wasn't a Boy Scout, I wonder what I'd be." And then someone would come out for each verse and say something, "Oh, I'd be a doctor. A doctor's what I'd be." Well, Barry Penicky had a pregnant lady. And it stuck in my mind the whole time because we're kind of up on this hill and there's a bonfire and everyone comes from behind this rock and says their thing. And then as we go through it, as each verse goes on, they would repeat what they were. So the first guy was repeating. So Barry was like the third guy and 5 or 6 people came after him. But his chorus was this, I'll never forget it. He was a pregnant lady and he went like this: "Honest, I swear, the chaperone was there." And he kind of sing-songed that. And when he did it, he would take his knees and go like this. And we would roll it every time he would sing that chorus. And it stuck in my mind because, Barry, he was kind of tall and thin. And it was just hilarious. One of the funniest things I ever saw. So,
he was a nice guy. Only by doing the podcast did I realize how many things did he join. He was like the king of clubs. Like he joined the cooking club, the boating club, the yachting club, whatever, the golf club. I mean, whatever it was. And, it's like if you're getting ready for a college, I understand how some people try to stack their high school resume, but it didn't seem like that was his objective. He just liked to do it. And, there is an interesting thing about Boy Scouts, and we bring it up there because I just talking to you about it made me think. There was no other Boy Scouts in the world camping in the Alps like us.
No, you're right.
Just us. Yeah. And I don't think Boy Scouts continued on much longer after that era. I was in it till like 6th grade. And then it was kind of like it faded out. And I don't know if it carried on. I didn't hear anybody going camping, doing the things anymore. So that years that you were there, now was James Greenwell there too? Was he in the Boy Scouts with us? Yeah.
Yeah.
And they say it prepares you for life. It's kind of like, you know, they say Boy Scouts, they all do pretty well. And, you know, be prepared, the motto, right? Adapt and overcome. It's like mini boot camp. It's not as intense. It's not your special forces training. It's not, you know, SEER training, but, you know, not that SEER training prepares you to do anything. It only prepares you to react. But I'm just saying, you know, it's interesting how a group of those people, most of them did thrive. And it just goes to show you, had we kept that more going on in the States, it probably would make the kids a little bit more productive. I believe it.
Yeah. Well, that ties into one of the clubs that I got into. One of the clubs I was really active in high school was the Outdoor Education Club, led by Mr. Robbins. And that was those are the same type of experiences that you can get from that as you can from Boy Scouts. It was a little less structured, but still it was getting you out of your comfort zone, out in the woods. You know, if you teach a kid how to navigate through the woods with a map and compass, well, that's a certain level of confidence and a skill they've mastered, so they can take that on as they hit new challenges through their life. Boy Scouts was really good at that time because it structured things. You learn how to set goals. Oh, I want to make this rank. So to do that, I have to get these merit badges and these skill badges and do these things. And like you said, it opened us up to experiences. How many people can say they went camping like that in the Alps? Yeah.
Yeah. Just that's that one camping group, that just us.
Yeah. It was such a great time. Yeah. And the people that were involved with it, after Doc Romero left,
Treywick
took over.
Yeah.
And and who else was there? And then there was another guy who took over after Colonel Treywick left. But yeah, it was a good time. Hey, I was looking through my old scout uniform a few years ago. I opened it up and there's some badge I got awarded. The signature at the bottom, Christopher Cavoli, who's now the U.S. Army Europe and Africa commander, 4-star general.
So the general gave you your first medal.
Yeah.
Before he was a general.
Hey, I ran into him a few years ago. Here's what happened. I'd retired from the Army and I was working as a civilian in Hohenfels, Germany. And he comes over. Hohenfels is a training area like NTC in California, but he comes over and he just received his 1st star, so he's a brigadier general. He's going to be the commander of the unit that my organization fell under. So he comes in, I'm going to give him a briefing on what we do in Hohenfels, right? I recognize him immediately. Although he doesn't have the curly hair he used to have, he still looks about the same. I'm a little older, I think, but still rather handsome. No. And so I give him this briefing and he says, well, hey, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. It's good. He asked some great questions and he said, it was nice meeting you. And I said, well, you've met me before. And he looks at me, he says, what? And I said, yeah, it's been a while. The last time I think you saw me was in Mr. Crowley's physics class in Vicenza when I was a senior. And he looks at me again. He says, oh, here's what a great guy is. Brigadier General, touring his first command as a general. And he takes about 5-10 minutes to sit there and talk. Yeah. And I knew they were running off the schedule. His aide just kind of walked off, knew that, you know, hey, this is a personal conversation with someone he knew from his past. But really great. Yeah, Chris is a great guy. Later on, he gave me a letter of recommendation for a job in Hawaii, but I blew the interview. But every time he came down to Hohenfels, he would stop by and ask how it's going. Last time I saw him was just before I went to Miami. I'd been picked up for a new position and he came by and congratulated me. You know, how many people have a 3-star general say, hey, I want to go to this guy's office and shake his hand?
So that's the degrees of separation. You know, it's like, I believe one of the Stokes brothers had him on a C-130, you know, and he pops up in your life. And then, you know, Derek Gould is hanging out with him in Alabama at the base over there at, I think it's called Red Point, or I forget the name of it.
Redstone Arsenal.
Redstone Arsenal. There you go. And, you know, it's like we pop up in each other's lives. And then I think about, like, were we all ever at the same base and didn't realize it? And I kind of did some analytics in my mind of times and years. And like one of my closest friends, Kevin Merritt, he was stationed near where I was stationed in the Navy, but in the Air Force. He was about 45-minute drive away. So I go, did you ever go to this nightclub, that nightclub? And it's like, we probably were walking in the same building, walk right by each other. It's possible because your radar is not looking for your Vicenza people that much, you know?
Yeah. But, you know, surprisingly enough, when I was younger, when I was at Fort Bragg, I could spot people right away because we still looked a lot like we did before. So I was at the mall there. It was 1983, and I ran into Ellie Rouse. You probably didn't know her. Her sister graduated with me, and then her younger sister was maybe a year. But it was Ellie Rouse, and she had a sister named Sherry. But they lived in Mount Olive, North Carolina. But when I saw her, it's like, hey, that's Ellie. Like I was just seeing her walking through the PX in Vicenza. Same thing happened at a club there. You know, all of a sudden, hey, that's Aunt Emma. And I didn't even realize it, but I said, hey, Ann, how's it going? And she looks at me, and then she's like, I realized who I was. And yeah, you just run into people like that.
Well, you're the first person I know that spotted Aunt Emma. I mean, I knew her brothers. That's how I knew who she was. Yeah. And then I knew some of her, you know, the girls she hung out with. She hung out with Lauren Barham and Michelle Maxwell. That was kind of her clique. That was kind of that era, right? So you're a class of 82. I was class of 86, but I was in Vicenza from 72, so I was class of everybody's class. It didn't matter. I might have been like 8, 7, 9, but I think I was like 11 or 12 when I was in the Boy Scouts. So yeah, there was a little bit of age difference, but I knew who you guys were. And when you're the little guy, you know, you're looking up and say, it's an older guy. He's cool. That guy's this. You know, you're just learning. You're just learning what's going on. And then we go back to, you remember Melanie, and I'm talking to Kara Gordon, and Kara Gordon's like, oh my gosh, all the guys thought, you know, Melanie was so beautiful because they talked about it in the slam book, and they were jealous because, you know, Melanie get to kiss Norman Wimpy, and it was so funny because you probably didn't know that the girls liked you that much, or you
I had no idea.
None of us did. None of us knew anything. You know, there's probably girls that left there that didn't realize all the guys wanted to take her to the prom or vice versa. And I think because when you're in such a small community, you kind of, some people were dating, they're straight up, it was normal thing, you know, Fonzie, people like Derek Gould, the Fonzie of Vicenza, but I'm just kidding. But I think that when you're in such a small community, you're worried about getting rejected or the scarlet letter or putting it out there in this world, you know, because there was military rules. There was high school culture. There was the whatever was popular with the kids, like the rules amongst the kids, you know, even though they weren't written rules. So you had like these 3 different laws of how you comport yourself over there. So it was interesting to me.
Yeah, and that's good because, you know, it was a high school. I watched, you know, and it's interesting to me because I think back on some people. I mean, I had a great time in Vicenza. I mean, I really had it. And most people that I talked to, they really loved it. But I know there are people whose experience in Vicenza high school just wasn't very good. There was one girl, my first year when I was a freshman, and she just had a miserable time. People picked on her. And I saw all this. And it was, she had family issues and stuff that came up. My brother, my sister married an MP. First time I saw the guy she would eventually marry, he was at the laundromat, you know, dealing with a family issue that this girl had with her mom in the laundromat, you know. So for her, it probably wasn't, she probably didn't have the same experience you and I had with Vicenza.
Oh, it is. I mean, there's a lot of people that dealt with some dark times. I mean, not everybody's family was perfect. And a lot of people did put on a pretty strong face. You know, they put on a facade. Yeah, everything's great. Yeah, I'm just like you, because you want to be socially accepted. So you're not going to go, I get all these problems, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, and that era was towards hazing was still popular. Things were just different to that culture. And today, geez, you know, it was, but I kind of like being raised in that culture.
Well, the good news is, you know, fast forward 15, 20 years after that, she posted something online. She's doing well. She's doing well. So her life got a lot better after that. And that's why I think about that sometimes, is because she admitted, yeah, my life wasn't really good then, but it's improved. And I also like to think of, you know, the kids who we never knew their name. there was this one girl. She was a couple years behind me. She was probably 7th grade when I was close to being a senior. And she always wore a coat all the way zipped up. She had blonde hair. She was a little chubby, but she was a nice kid, no trouble. All she did was go to school, and she'd just stand around and watch people. You know, if we're sitting outside by the huts waiting to go into a classroom and people are talking, she's just standing there with her books, listening to the people talk. You know, don't know her name, probably couldn't. I might find her in a yearbook and say, oh yeah, that's who that was. But you know, all those kids were there, and they were all part of the experience. And you know, I hope they had a great time there too, as great as we did. I mean, you were like Vicenza royalty because your dad was a teacher.
It helped. I mean, it was royalty, but then it was also scrutiny. So, you know, there were certain expectations, and kids would say things. I'd be playing football. You're just playing because your dad's the coach. I'm like, I'm not even playing any of the major plays in the game. What are you talking about? You want my one play, my 2 times that I go for down ball? Yeah, whatever. They're going to hike the ball twice, and I'm back on the bench. I don't know what you're talking about. But people would do certain things. But as you grow up, why are they saying this? You know, because either they think that you have some connection or they're projecting and perceiving. And no, I was not the prom king. It was not I didn't get any head of the line privileges. I didn't get free pizza at the cafeteria. And even worse is that your dad was always in your business. So you might choose not to date that much because who's that you're talking to over there, Len? You know, so that's, you know.
Yeah, you're right. Your dad was there every day.
Right. And he knew everything. My dad was like the internet.
Yeah.
You know, he's in PE class. Here's the gossip, this and that. This, you know, kids don't realize they're letting information slip out, whatever they're saying. So, yeah, I was there for quite a while. Where did you live, Villaggio, or did you live off base?
We lived in Villaggio, and I was thinking about this over the past week. I was in Vicenza for 4 years, so my memories are divided into 2 different phases. Phase 1 of Vicenza was 78 to 80 when we lived over by the swimming pools in the 2-story townhouses. I guess you'd call them townhouses. And then after my sister got married and left in 1980, that summer we moved over close to the entrance to Villaggio in a duplex, a 1-level duplex.
Was your dad enlisted or?
Yeah, he was. I think he went there as a sergeant first class, and when he made master sergeant, he could move up to the other place.
Yeah, that was master sergeant, command sergeant, major area, right by the entrance of Villaggio.
Yeah.
Right when you go in on your left. Yep. Right past that little store that they had, that building where they're selling glass and bamboo chairs and all that stuff.
Yeah. Did you know Arthur Donahue?
Yeah, I did.
He was my neighbor. Him and his sisters were my neighbors. His sisters were in were they in my class or behind me? I forget, but they were our neighbors for a while. We lived right next to them. And Greg Kelso lived across the street.
I hung out with Greg. Saw him after he, came back from the Army. He was all solid. He had been putting in the workout. Yeah. And then I basically didn't see him again because I took off. But, some people would get in the military and then get stationed in Vicenza right away. They were able to pull that off, that billet. That's where they were trying to get back to.
Yeah, that was my goal. That's why. Here's my enlistment story. Did you know recruiters lie to you?
Oh, yeah. No, mine was pretty honest. Mine was.
So I go in there and I tell the guy.
50%.
Yeah. I tell the guy, I go to high school, Georgia. So my dad gets stationed at Fort Stewart. I graduated, we moved back. And come to find out, Don Mazingo, who was a year behind me in school, his stepdad, his real dad lives there. He was in Vicenza with his stepdad and his mom. He moves back. So I get a call from him one day. I go over to his house, but that's just another connection somehow, how you run into people. But anyway, so I decided I'm going to join the Army. So I go to the recruiter's office, and they thought I was messing with them because nobody from Hinesville goes in and says they want to join the Army. They got to go find them. So my goal was to go back to Vicenza. So I said, I want to go infantry. I want to be an 11 Charlie or Mortarman, and I want to go to jump school. And the guy said, that's great. But have you considered this? He says, I can't guarantee you jump school if you go infantry, and you may never get it. That was his big lie to me. Because when I finally got to jump school, the 11 series guys from Fort Benning were telling me, oh yeah, they came around every week trying to get people to go to airborne school. And I never did get to Vicenza.
I did have a guy trying to recruit me, one of the local guys. He's like, yeah, Len should be he should join Rangers. He likes getting bar fights with the GIs. Let's put him in there. And I'm like, after I get in trouble over there, they suspected I was this, criminal that I wasn't, because I'd have drinks with some people of questionable character off base that were probably in the life, real locals,
Yeah.
And I guess you're like the KOI, kid of interest, not even person of interest. So eventually I had to sneak out of Italy because they came to my house. They go, we caught you with the joint. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. So by the time I thought about joining the military, I was fed up with the Army. And the Navy recruiters like, we pay you to chase ladies and drink booze all over the world. That's a great time. And it's like, okay. And, I'm like, good. I think this is a good place. I'd walked by the Marine recruiter. There's a big chubby kid, and the Marine recruiter's yelling, stand tall, boy, just yelling at him. He's like, yes, sir. I'm like, he's not even signed up yet, man. What's with this? You just go out and start drilling, suckering people on the sidewalk or what? And the Air Force thought I was a little too wild for their taste, which would have been my first choice for a party billet. Like get in, because I worked at SEB, get in, get stationed in Berlin, and go to the German discos and live the life and, go work at a TV station. And then that was a thought. And then I said, no, I'll go to the Navy. I'll be a Navy SEAL. But the guy didn't tell me I needed to put 60 miles of road work in every week. I just showed up right off the couch.
You were going to go couch to SEAL, right? In a couple
I mean, don't worry. It's just you can run 60 miles. It's just in you. You just got to have the willful desire at a drop of a hat. I did kill the swim, but I swam competition all the time. But then I blew myself out on that, and I was overweight at the time. I did finally get to where I could pass the test, and by then I'd lost interest. I'm like, whatever. I worked out with them when they were on my ship, and I could hang. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. I'm getting out of here. So eventually I get out of the military after 6 years. I liked it. My friends, when they talk about the Navy, like my friend Kevin, who's working as a GS-12 on a base as an engineer, he's like, he's working with the Navy. He's like, man, they treat you guys like, oh my God, like you're prisoners. I go, yeah, never realized it, but yes. He'd be in Diego Garcia on some island and they're like, get in line, get in line. It's like, they're just like on us. And they were on us. That's then. I don't know what the new Navy is, but back in the 80s and early 90s, it was a different story, man.
Hey, in 2019, they finally did away with being able to put sailors in the brig on bread and water. I didn't even know that was a punishment. I mean,
oh yeah.
Not only are we locking you up, but we're giving you crappy food.
They used to have this place where they would send you if you were a screw up, and they'd have you just redo boot camp, but at double time, twice the exercise, twice the, extra military instruction.
Oh yeah. The Army used to have those too at every post, the little, like a stockade thing where they take you in, and man, they were brutal at Fort Bragg.
Right.
It's like Scared Straight seeing that. Oh no, I'm going to do everything right. I don't want to go there.
You see guys holding a rifle out here for like 5 minutes. Their arms are shaking and, over your head now, like down, do push-ups. It's like crazy stuff. So, but didn't you eventually go a special forces route later on?
Yeah, I did. I went to jump school in 1983 and then got assigned to Fort Bragg. And I was in the airborne unit there, 27th Engineer Battalion, Combat Airborne. And not even the 82nd. And it's interesting you should mention that because I think Chuck McIntosh was there at the same time I was, but he was in, I think he was in division 82nd at the time. But again, I think he was a medic with the other side of post. I never ran into him.
Right.
But I did that for 3 years. I was a unit supply specialist, which is a supply clerk.
Yeah.
The Army had such cool names because when I'm talking to the recruiter, the guy says, okay, you want to go airborne? He goes, well, can you play the piano? And I'm thinking, what?
We need you for the airborne band. Yeah.
I was like, no. Can you play the trumpet? No. Okay, well, how about this? Food services specialist. And I thought, wow, a specialist. That sounds cool. He goes, oh, yeah, it's a cook. What? So eventually, we narrowed it down. I signed up to be a supply clerk. I went to basic and AIT at Fort Jackson. went to jump school, ended up at Fort Bragg. And after 3 years, it's like, well, what do you want to do? And they started talking to me about re-enlisting. And they had this thing called the BEAR program, Basic Extension and Re-enlistment. So if I go into this and go Special Forces, they'll extend my initial enlistment, and when I re-enlist, I'll get a $20,000 bonus.
SRB, yeah.
Yeah, and I said, sign me up, man. Yeah, 20 grand, that's great. And then I got there, and they tried to teach me Morse code, and boy, that was tough. Finally got through it all, and then stayed there. So I was a communication sergeant.
I know Morse code. That was part of my job.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah,
it's not easy to learn.
I was a signalman, but I do it visually with the lights real fast. Yeah.
I had to do it with the radios. That was.
There's ear and eye. There's the 2 ways of doing it. Da 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 da, all that good stuff.
Yeah. So I did that for a few years, and then in '91 I went to the war. I became a warrant officer. They act as assistant detachment commanders. Hey, which is cool because you mentioned Kara Gordon. Her brother Glenn was friends with Curtis Geiger, I believe, and Curtis Geiger ended up going into Special Forces.
There's quite a few. There's quite a few Special Forces guys, but some of them were younger. I'm like, oh, okay. I could see like a lot of people seeing airborne. That's not cool. And all of a sudden they're getting older. It kind of looks cool. They want to do it. So you became a warrant officer. That's cool. You just get your degree and said, I need to get a pay raise. I want to buy a Cadillac. What was that?
I just wanted to eat.
Right.
Actually, what I did it for was not the money. I did it for the job, the position, actually, because I wanted a leadership position. So that's why I did it, and it worked out well. I had that was my best job I've ever had. Was being a warrant officer on an ODA. That was a lot of fun. So I enjoyed that.
Well, it was interesting that you make the transition from supply clerk to higher level Special Forces. You're like, wait a second. I mean, like, well, when I sharpen these pencils good enough, it's very wax on, wax off, and that's preparing me to be an elite troop. That's good. I'm kidding. Usually you don't jump from that position to that. You end up as being like, I guess what you guys would call quartermaster, working in supply, right? Yeah. And quartermasters to us are those who navigate for the ship. So we have the same word, different languages in different militaries.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I would have figured they were some type of supply person.
Well, we had supply people, shopkeepers, but the quartermaster on the Navy ship means the one who's like shooting points, kind of like our version of water navigation, mapping and steering the ship and landing it where it's going to be and all that kind of stuff. So using a sextant. It was very different to join the Navy. I'm glad I did though, because you're going to get stationed at the beach. You don't have a chance of getting a bad duty station. Like some Army places you could get stationed could be in the middle of the country and you're a single young guy. There's no girls in town and there's nothing but a gas station. There's bases like that.
That's Fort Polk, Louisiana, right there. You just described Fort Polk, Louisiana.
Right?
Yeah, Hohenfels, Germany is like that too. Sure, it sounds great. Oh, I'm in Germany, German. But Hohenfels is in the middle of nowhere, and there's no bus or train connecting it to anywhere. When I first went to Germany in 1999, I was there TDY at Stuttgart, and all the posts were open. A lot of them were. You could just come in. So Friday and Saturday night, the street around the club would be lined up with cars for German girls who wanted to go to the American club to meet American guys. Yeah. So then it was, life was good. And then 9/11 came along. Boy, it took about 2 months to kill all that.
Yeah, they're like, sorry, we're closing Studio 54.
Yeah.
The disco is now closed, but that's better than the guys had in Italy. I don't know if you realize how the difference in culture where the German women were more open. And if you went down to Italy in our era, the Italian girls were very Catholic and their dads lock them up on the weekend. Don't go near the guys. So a lot of the GIs, and my friend who's also former SF airborne, he tells me, I met him in the Navy. He was a Navy cook and he went and became airborne and went infantry and became Green Beret. So it's kind of funny, his trajectory, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, he knows all about Vicenza and stuff, even though he wasn't really stationed there, right? Because he knows about the 82nd and all those people. But he's like, you know, when we compare the stories, what it's like, he says what they would do for a lot of the enlisted soldiers that were in airborne is they'd have at the end of work, oh, Johnny left his socks out. We're going to clean the barracks for 3 more hours and give them a small window to go party.
Yeah.
So they're wound up, so they're ready for war all the time. They'll go beat the crap out of each other like they did at September's bar in Vicenza.
September's.
It was all by design. You know, we're going to get these guys all mad. There's no girls in town. They're going to go down to some bar downtown Vicenza with it's just a guy party, and it gets pretty boring. And these guys are full of testosterone. I mean, they're alpha. So they would beat the crap out of each other. He's like, oh yeah, that would happen at other bases too.
Yeah, yeah. You get a young kid out there, you know, 18, 19 years old, first time away from home. Really, he's in a strange land. There's people who have been there. I mean, it's a weird experience. You show up, and you're the youngest one there, and there's these guys that are E4s. Oh, this guy's been here 3 years already. Ooh, he knows everything. You know, and these are the guys you're looking to for guidance, and then they're taking you to September's, and you're getting in fights with guys when you're in a country that's, yeah, there's so much to do there, more than just going hanging around at September's with a bunch of other guys drinking beer.
Oh, that was it. A lot of them wouldn't find girlfriends, so they would just be taking out their testosterone frustration. And in Germany, the German were like, oh, I like you. Oh, that's good. Oh, you're my boyfriend. You're like, oh, okay. You know, the difference is night and day. You go from, you're either living, you know, Potsy from Happy Days or you're Fonzie. So you're Fonzie in Germany, right? But you're definitely Potsy in Vicenza. You know? That was, I lived there so long. I mean, I analyzed the hell out of the psychology, and, you know, even for me as a young high school guy, the Italian girls were not chasing American boys. There wasn't a lot of guys I went to high school with that dated American girls. I mean, excuse me, that dated Italian girls. Not a lot, you know, that lived on the economy, that lived off.
You're right. It would have to, you would have to be one of those guys that were fluent in Italian. You know, there were a few of them.
I was. Didn't help.
No.
No, because the culture at that time, it's changed, but at that time it was very Scarlet Letter-like. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah,
you know, you're not married. I mean, you'd have to go out and like chase a girl like Romeo and Juliet for 2 years, and then, you know, maybe meet her parents after 2 years, and then you get a kiss on the cheek. And you call it a life.
I met one Italian girl like that. Her name was Marcella Zinn, and we met. All I remember is we would go to Vesuvio's Pizzeria downtown.
Mm-hmm. I remember that place.
Kind of behind the theater. And it was there in 2007 when I went back. I don't remember if it had the same name, but there was a pizzeria there. But you're right. We never did anything, but we met there and we would talk. And then eventually we stopped. She got sent off to school because her family was rich and stuff. And probably, you know, we don't want you hanging out with Americans. What are the neighbors going to say?
Yeah. What are the neighbors? They're up to no good, man. They wear tight jeans and have long hair. And they listen to Led Zeppelin. They're the worst. But what were did you take some trips, or did you play any sports while you were there, or did you take any field trips?
I ran cross country while I was there. That was the big trip. And yeah, just the sport trips for cross country, or I would do to Livorno. I remember Livorno really well. Aviano, of course. Livorno was an overnight thing. Oh, my memories of your dad. Mm-hmm. We were in one of the barracks that we stayed at, and we're all sleeping on the floor. And I was in one of the first rooms, and some guys from another cross country team or whatever came in, and they threw this trash can in our room. And your dad I'd never seen him so angry. I mean, he couldn't believe it. But here he is walking out trying to chase these kids in his underwear. I just have this image of seeing your dad run by in his underwear. It's like, what was that? He eventually chased it. I guess he caught him, and they got in trouble for it. But yeah, to him, that was way out of bounds what they did. Yeah, that's good.
Must have triggered the old Marine training in him, and he just popped back up and ran out there.
Oh yeah, it was amazing. I mean, I'd hate to have him come after me looking like that. And we did a lot of trips with baseball too. In fact, the first trip I ever did in Vicenza was in 1978. We went to Livorno for a baseball tournament, and that's the first time I drank beer. Thank you, Jack Tomasino, for that. And we went to this small carnival, and Jack says, "Okay, you guys wait here." Well, he comes back and he's got his shirt hung up like this, and he just all these cans of beer fall out. He says, "Let's have fun." We probably drank one beer each. I don't know.
That's where I drank my first beer, was Livorno on a teen club trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had walkie-talkies. We were looking out for the MPs. Ninja 1, this is Ninja 2. Imbibe. It was funny, and we had a lookout. If we would have kept with the walkie-talkies, I don't think the MPs ever would have caught us on post. But we eventually get popped.
That's a good idea.
You know,
because they would sneak up. It was funny. You could get caught drinking on post by an MP on Friday night, and he'll make you pour your beer out. And then Saturday night, or you're in a bar downtown just off post, and the guy walks in, and you stand next to him and drink a beer, and he can't say anything.
Yeah.
I had one of them explain that to me. He goes, "Hey, I would have liked to have let you have your beer last night, but I couldn't do it."
Well, here is the thing. Me and my friends like to party. We're like, we're going to drink, but then we get on post, and they're trying to stop us at the gate for being hammered or something, because we're trying to go to the high school dance where all the fun was. Because there was only so much entertainment. Once you're sitting around an Italian bar and there's a little old man sitting there, and there's, people just, you're like, what is this? It moves so slowly. And you're this American kid looking for action, I guess. But, later things progressed. We started having parties off post all the time. And I don't know, the era's changed, but who did you hang out with? You said Tomasino. Now, I talked to another guy you might know. Did you know Kamaki?
Yeah, I remember Kamaki. He was a couple of years ahead of me, but yeah, you mentioned him in one of the other podcasts.
He dated one of the Tomasinos.
Yeah. Now, let's get this straight. I didn't hang out with Jack Tomasino. We were just on the same baseball team at that time. Yeah, so, and Kamaki, everybody knew Kamaki.
Yeah.
And, he's one of those people that can talk in he always has the right thing to say. Does that make sense?
I talked to him for 5 hours. He's pretty amazing.
Yeah,
he's pretty amazing.
He's one of those people that, as I remember him back then, he could just talk really well. And I've run into I had a guy I worked with in Hohenfels, Germany. His wife was like that. I told him, man, I love meeting your wife. When we sit down with your wife, she's a great conversationalist. And Kamaki was that way too. Yeah.
No, he's from the islands, and they have a thing they call talk story. Like, somebody who can talk story. Think about it. The islands, initially, they probably didn't get internet till a couple years behind. Not that they were some third world country. They're part of America, but still, everything there was a little more old school, a little longer than it was at some of the other states, like in California or something, right? And so is the Midwest, but talking story, that was how you carried your rap, when you were your age, and then even my age a few years later, and then we'd tell them these stories about Italy, and then they just call us a liar. So, our FICO score on the credibility scale was pretty low. But they're like, no way you didn't, get beer from a barracks, soda machine in Livorno. There's no way you did that, right?
Yeah, I remember that.
Right. So who were your hangout buddies? Who did you hang out with?
My first couple of years there, I hung out a lot with Jack Porter. And then we had a group of us that would hang out together. Jack, George McFadden.
I met George at a reunion. Great guy.
Yeah, Brian Dole. I hung out with him, and Barbara Dole. Chuck McIntosh. Chuck passed away recently. I don't know if you know this. You may have seen it on Facebook.
I don't remember if I did, but may he rest in peace. Yeah. McFadden's, wasn't his dad a general?
Yeah, his dad was the SeaTac commander.
He had the house with the pool near Villaggio?
Yeah.
Right?
And we would go party at his house in the summertime too.
Right.
I remember one time George was in trouble for something. I forget what, but anyway, he was on restriction, and we were all there partying. I didn't know his mom and dad were upstairs asleep. So his dad comes downstairs in the bathroom, with his pajamas on, the bathroom, and he says, me and my girlfriend, let's see, you mentioned Mike Coley. So I was going out with his sister, Chrissy, at the time.
Okay.
We're sitting we're at the kitchen table. It's like 2 a.m. Yeah, about 2 a.m, maybe 3. And he comes down, he says, "Where's Linus?" And I thought, who is Linus? Well, it turns out Linus is George's middle name. So he had left and he wasn't supposed to. So his dad says, "Okay, everyone's going to have to leave." So we start getting our stuff together. And this poor guy, here's the CTAF commander. Every door he opens, there's kids sleeping behind it. So he's going around opening all these doors, kicking these kids out of his house. And I got home and my mom told my dad, "David, on Monday, I want you to go down to his office and tell him that wasn't right. You give him what for." And my dad's like, "Okay, yeah, I'll do it." Yeah, the master sergeant's going to go down and tell the general he was wrong. Yeah. But,
I'm trying to jog your memory because I'm tying more people to the podcast. So
yeah.
George is someone I might follow up with because he was cool. We had a good time hanging out in Texas.
George
Probably about 9 years ago, I think.
He's another one of those guys that can. He has a great personality, and he back then he was funny. And I hope he's still the same way. I imagine life hasn't beaten him down that much that he's become some bitter old man. I'm friends with him on Facebook, and I'm sure he's still the same.
We're gonna bring him out. We'll bring him out on here. I go after I used to be in sales, so I don't care much about rejection. You guys can tell me, "Go away, don't call me." I'm like, "That's your problem. You're missing out. See ya." So that's all it is. I'm not doing this for a popularity contest.
Yeah, I'm divorced once, so I'm used to rejection too from my first wife.
Well, did you know the Stokes brothers as well? Because they were there in your era. Monty Stokes?
Yeah, Monty, I think, was a year ahead of me.
Yeah.
But we really didn't hang out. He hung out with different people than I did, which is, okay.
You were with the partiers, which is funny. You were at the party crew. Because that's George. I remember guys, all the long hair, carrying cases of beer off post. I saw a bunch of you guys all going. I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's Norm. He smokes cigarettes and drinks beer. He's one of the naughty older kids." Little did I know I was only a year or two behind you. But, it's funny because George seemed so rebellious back then because people had this standard because your dad's a general. You have to live up to this, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, most generals' kids did party a little bit here and there. Some were under more stricter regard than others. Some of the generals were like, "Yeah, kids are being kids. They'll grow up or they'll grow out of this. I'm dragging them that they're here following my career path. If I'm going to make them live in a town where they can buy beer at 13, oh well, who brought them here? Accountability, man. You know what I mean? Think about it.
And I think the key is just to be safe and sensible about it too. I mean,
Right.
Probably would have been no issue that night if George had not left. It's being safe and sensible about it. Some people. Yeah, I'm not saying I made great decisions back then. It was okay. Like I said, I enjoyed it. I had good times. The last 2 years I was there, I hung out with Carlos Spencer. Okay. Oh no, here's who you need to get on the podcast. Brian and Barbara Dull.
Okay.
Because Brian was a year ahead of me. He graduated, and Barbara stayed to graduate in '82. They ended up getting married. They were going out in high school. They got married. They live in Oregon, and they're married still. I think that's a great story.
It's a great story too. Anybody that's been divorced like you and me are like, "Hey, wow, you can make it last. That's impressive." Is it your friend who's a millionaire? No, it's the guy that's still married to the gal, and they're both making it work. That is impressive. There's you can't discount it.
Yeah. So so they started their story in Vicenza and then took it, where it is now with a family, with they're growing up. They have kids and grandkids who are doing their lives too. And I think their story is really good. Plus they were good. They were good friends too.
I'm trying to think more of your era. You knew Kara Gordon, right? You knew Glenn Gordon, right?
It was funny when you mentioned Kara Gordon because I had to think about it for a minute. But I remember her in the outdoor education club when we would go to Birch's Garden. She was kind of small and thin. But if I was to picture her today, I would say she would have, I don't know, just this really sarcastic wit because that's how she sounded back then. When I think about her, and I could picture her as an older person, an older woman being that way, being funny and smart. And yeah, because that's how she seemed at that age.
Yeah, you're kind of like, you look back and you get to go. It's interesting to see, like, where are they now? I mean, come on. And we had MTV or VH1 giving us behind the scenes of rock bands. I'm like, what about the rock stars from Vicenza? What about all these kids that I knew? What about Johnny that was a big time jock that ended up working at the ice cream factory? Where is he now? I'm kidding. But I'm just saying, I'm just trying to recommunicate. I said, we have this communication tool. Of course, we get COVID. People aren't traveling the world as much, doing as many things as they were.
Mm-hmm.
So why not reconnect? Why not do what's never been done? If for all those years, and there's people that came and passed on before this was available, in the last 30 years that we knew, and maybe they're a little bit older, different parts of their life, right? But I'm like, why not one big master blast communication, which is the podcast, and reconnect everyone? Because I think traditionally people get older, the phone doesn't ring, and people just start deleting that person in their memory. And that's how it happens. It happens, and they don't think anybody cares. And then they find that person. Let's say there's some girl you went out with or some guy you went out with from high school. You look at their profile like, wow, they have a big house. Wow, her husband looks real professional. Wow, I'm not going to call her. I mean, I'm over here, working at
the. She really traded up when she dumped me, didn't she?
Yeah, exactly. Or vice versa. Or so-and-so, John looks way too important to communicate with. To me, I don't care what rank you are, what level of business you are, what celebrity status you could be. You're just people. We're all people. I'm just a person. And I know this because I've met a lot of famous people. So I think when you just meet people, all that's just hype. It all boils down to, who are you as a person? It comes right down to that.
Yeah, and I think it's good that all of us have this connection that started in Vicenza.
Yeah.
Because I have to tell you, Vicenza ruined my life by making it much better. If that makes sense. That and F. Scott Fitzgerald short stories when I was in high school, because that the field trips we would take from Vicenza to go to Verona, go to look at architecture or art in Milan, or Venice, or
Guggenheim Museum,
wherever you would go. I mean, that's just after that, there was a song at the end of war. They used to say at the end of World War I, after he's been to Paris, how are you going to move him back to the farm? And that's kind of how coming back to the States was for me. It was all new, but I always kind of had this feeling I don't really fit in here.
Right.
That's why when I retired and got a job in Germany, I mean, it was just great. I mean, it helped that I could speak German, so that helped a lot. Amazingly, if you live in a foreign country and you speak the language, it's a lot easier to meet women there.
It does help.
Yeah.
And if you grew up in the era of disco, you might have some dance moves. So you were lucky.
I do. I take them out sometimes, but today's not one of those days.
They're like, was ist das? Eine schöne Disco-Dancer. Ja, alles gut. Hello, GI. I'm joking. But
no, it was, I mean, so yeah, I mean, Vicenza opened that world up for me. It made the world a bigger place than just, Palookaville, Mississippi, where some people are growing up.
You made me think about the saying, you can take someone out of the trailer park, but you can't take the trailer park out of them. Well, you can take us out of Europe, but you're not going to take away that experience. And that's maybe why I'm coming back to us. That's what's drawing me. And I want to understand. I'm analytical. I want to know where we came from, what happened, how we made our choices as a group, and why so many people did pretty darn good. We didn't all become Google CEO millionaires, but that doesn't matter. That's not success. Mm-hmm. To start from a place where you don't know what's going to happen next, and you get on a plane to the great wild yonder, not knowing what your future may hold once you fly to the States, right?
Yeah, consider this. You could, if you're a junior in high school and you can walk out your front door with 50 mil in your pocket and buy a bus ticket to go to the train, take the train to Venice and spend the day in Venice and then get back in time, and then do the same thing in reverse to get back home. If you can do that, what's going to stand in your way the rest of your life? It was interesting for me though, because when I did get back, for a lot of years, I thought, you know what? I wish I had had a normal childhood. I wish I I felt like, hey, I don't have any place that anchors me.
Right.
Right?
I felt like this too.
Like that house. Did you?
Yeah.
It took me a few years to realize, now, wait a minute. No, I do. I mean, I actually, rather than having a place to anchor me, I mean, Vicenza does that. And certainly I don't go back there for Christmas and stuff because I don't have family there. And most of the people that I knew there are not there anymore anyway. But that experience and
Did
the
you,
entire
Rich,
military brat experience, that's the anchor that I had to come to grips with and say, yeah, so the world is my hometown.
it is. I mean, did you know Richard Collins? You brought that up because he's still there.
Yeah, I saw him in 2007 at the reunion in
Okay.
Vicenza. That's
And then you saw the Stokes there too. So you guys were all around the same era, give or take a year.
yeah,
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
yeah, that's when I saw Monty was there.
And then you knew James because he probably you lived near him in Villaggio because that's where his dad was on that part of
James.
Villaggio. Greenwell. Tank. We
Oh
call him
yeah,
Tank.
yeah. He lived in that cul-de-sac. I mean, if I had a map, I could show you the cul-de-sac.
It's on the left. It's like if you look at the pool, it's on the left-hand side. You were on the right-hand side. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think James Greenwell, when I was in 9th grade, he was in 8th or 7th grade. I think we were on the same football team with DYA,
Mm-hmm.
youth activities. Yeah, he's a good guy. He was a guy. I mean, I hope he did well in life. I don't know.
Very well.
He was just
very
a
well.
nice guy. You know, when I think back on the fun we had with scouting and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
he was a nice. I think he was there. Here's another scouting story. We're at that same camping area. We went walking, we went hiking or something, maybe got water. But just off this road leading up to the campsite, we found this cable that came down from like a rock escarpment. And there was a tire tied to it. And what these foresters would do is fill the tire with branches and slide it down.
Mm-hmm.
So we decided, hey, this would be fun. We could slide down this thing. It'll be like, you know,
Zip line.
a rope slide for life.
Yeah.
Well, it was a tire, and there was looked like a coat hanger attaching it to this steel cable. So I said, okay, guys, I'll try it first, but we're going to do this safely. So we had a rope. So we tied the rope to the tire so it wouldn't go down and hit the tree. So, okay, I'm not going to hit the tree at the end. And then I tied the rope around me so that if I step off and I can't hold myself, I won't plunge to my, 10 feet to my death. Okay, so I think we're good. Now, you guys hold on to this end of the rope, and I'm going to go for it. Well, I didn't really consider that coat hanger, that rusty coat hanger might not be strong enough to hold me. So I launched myself off that, and that thing, I probably went about 2 feet and the wire broke, the cable, holding the tire. So I'm holding onto this tire. I'm tied to it and falling down, and I see this rock that I'm heading for. And I landed right beside the rock, laying there holding this stupid ass tire. And I think James Greenwell was there, and he comes out and goes, "Oh man, I thought you were dead." But yeah.
Oh yeah.
Beginning of my adventures.
Now, James has done well, successful businessman. I was going to make something up and saying he's now an acrobat in Cirque du Soleil, world popular, but you can't tell who he is because of the costumes. But no, he's a good guy. I talked to him the other day. You guys live near each other. He lives in Vienna, Virginia, I believe, or that area near DC Metro.
Oh, okay.
Area. Yeah.
Yeah, Teddy Spittle lives over here too.
Yeah, him and Teddy were best of friends. So you knew Teddy back then too, right?
Yeah, I knew Teddy and his sisters.
Yeah.
And Teddy actually helped us buy our house here.
Oh yeah, he's the best realtor at VHS so far. He's got my vote. You know, there's a lot of them. It's funny. I'll be on Facebook. Oh my gosh, they were all realtors because I used to be a realtor when it was hot in California years ago, and then I'm out of it. And I'm like, look at them all go. Good for you guys. You know what I mean? Kind of ran its course. But yeah, Teddy's good. He really puts himself into it. He really makes sure he takes good care of people. And, people buying in the Virginia area. I mean, anybody there, just look him up. Definitely vouch for him. Because I talked to him about it. He knows his stuff very well. Real professional.
Oh, yeah, he helped us out. Yeah.
I'm sure it was easy. Good.
He was very patient with us because we changed what we were looking for several times. But he went with us and looked at everything. And then when we finally decided, he was there helping us get all the details sorted out for the deal. and worked out really well. He even tried to. He said, "Hey, I'm going to give you some money towards closing for my commission." Okay, that's a little weird. Let's not do that. Keep your money. You did the work. Keep your money. We'll pay for our closing. So
that was nice of him. That's what you do when you're taking care of friends and family, for sure. That's all. That's a good move. Who else? Now, you were in that play. Steve Gregan was in that play. You remember Steve Gregan?
Yeah.
The most handsome guy ever at VHS.
Yeah.
According to statistics in the almanac. Yeah.
He could play the guitar. I mean, that's 90% of being the sexiest person around anywhere. I mean,
Oh gosh, that only got worse after you left, man. Guys were all like, I know how to play heavy metal, and all of a sudden I had all these buddies, and they were all guitar players. Like maybe at some school you needed a Camaro, but at Vicenza you needed a guitar, and you needed to play at least "Smoke on the Water" a little bit more than that. Dun 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 dun. I learned that in D. Tomaso's class.
One Christmas, Arthur Donahue got a bass for Christmas, and his room was right next to mine in our duplexes. So I would have to listen to him trying to learn how to do the bass riff from Another One Bites the Dust. It'd be like, bam.
Yeah. Our forms of entertainment then were, you lived in Villaggio, so you had SEB, one channel of television, right?
Right.
So there's a couple of shows. Go ahead.
Yeah, and that was it. We could pick up some Italian TV. My parents liked watching some of the Italian shows that you didn't really have to speak Italian to understand. Like the things like you're running through an obstacle course and you have to climb a grease pole and stuff, or a big boxing glove comes out and knocks you off this platform. Things like that. They would watch. But yeah, SEB. Great entertainment. It's completely different there. Well, you were on ships, right?
Yeah.
So you saw the AFN has all those channels now.
Nope.
Sports channel, movie channel.
We didn't get them out at sea.
What?
We had videotapes of the newest movies in theaters, basically. We get early release. They when we go Westpac. Oh, dude, you're gonna see a Navy rack. What a bed looks like in the Navy. That'll show you. I mean, talking with Barry, that's why he became a pilot. He's like, I'm not going to be on this ship because this was rough. Because when he was going through his ROTC period, but we do have somebody who's ship friendly, which is Admiral Yvette Davids, who was Yvette Gonzalez. Back in she was there when you were there. Yvette Gonzalez. Yeah. She became an admiral. We have a lot of brass at VHS. And the Diane Del Rosso, she's a general.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And she's also a big exec, so yeah.
It's interesting.
She lives near you too. Yeah.
I obviously moved to a nice place, I guess.
I'm telling you, like there's in your backyard, like it could be 5 houses down. There's a Vicenza cougar that I used to hang out with and go trick or treating when I was like 9. I don't know. Could happen. Yeah. The odds.
A lot ended up in Colorado Springs too. And I didn't really realize it because when I left Colorado Springs, the internet was just coming out.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, Facebook didn't even exist then. But then as Facebook came up and I started connecting with these people, it's like, wait, you live there? One girl that we went to, she was in the outdoor education club with us and went to Birch's Garden in the wintertime one time, Stacy Murdoch. Right? And she was a year or two ahead of me, but she lived in Colorado Springs and worked at the Air Force Academy. So I was taking my daughter to the Air Force Academy for a field trip once. I could have run into her,
right?
And other people. My best friend from high school lived within a mile or two of me, and I ran into him somehow because we communicated over the internet, and then a guy in my unit was at a gas station where he worked, and he said, "Hey, you're a Green Beret. My buddy from high school is too. Do you know Norm Wimpy?" And he's like, "Yeah." And the guy comes in after lunch and says, "Hey, I ran into a guy who said he knows you, Carlos Spencer." It's like, he's my best friend when I was a senior in high school. Went down. He lived there. He still lives there, though. I get in touch with him every now and then.
Isn't that amazing how that goes? I mean,
yeah.
I think we have a powerful network. I think if people help each other out, we have, there's new technology, right? Let's say that you need a job or your kid needs a, recommendation to get in the military,
Hmm.
or you want to get into the GS world, the government service world, or, we have people at all these places is what I've discovered. You know what I mean? And
Oh
and
yeah, that
everybody can
sounds
help
like it.
everybody can help each other out. And you know what kind of people you're getting or hiring, or, like using Teddy for real estate. He went to your school, he's got the same standards as you do, your foundation, how you grew up, your culture, the beginning of your operating system, your mental ideas started in your formative years, junior high, high school.
Yeah.
So we all kind of have this special language that we all know. We may not have used it all the time moving around the world. We've adapted and overcome. We, adjust to what's around us, no matter where we are in the world. I mean, it's when I talk to somebody, like I haven't talked to you since I was 12. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's only 40 years. They're refreshing. You get in a time machine, man. And you were in the Army, and I was going by Army, but you were never stationed on the West Coast, were you?
No. Oh yeah, I was in Washington for 3 years.
Oh, up
My
north.
daughter was born there at Fort Lewis.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So I was a California guy ever since, and I don't have any relatives from there. I just decided I want to live there because I would just look at people from all 50 states. I had a clean slate. I grew up, went to Italy when I was 5, left when I was 19. So I'm like, where's the cool people from? Oh, California, Texas, Florida were my 3 choices. I went to my A school, newer version AIT in Florida, had a great time. I'm like, wow, Florida's great. California's going to be better. Actually, Florida was more fun initially than California, but
Where you at? Pensacola?
no, I was in Orlando.
Oh, okay.
Come on.
Orlando. Yeah, of course. Disneyland's there.
Oh yeah. I mean, being a young sailor in Orlando, what a big change. You walk down the beach and girls are like, hi. And you're like, never did that in Italy. You're like, they must be doing pranks here. I'm on the Punked TV show or something. But you continue to travel. And like you said, no one place is your home. I don't care. I used to care about that. I used to worry, that empty feeling, and now I see that more as a handcuff than I do see saying, this is where I live for the rest of my life.
Mhm.
I've moved almost as many times as I have years in my life. I roll.
And there's nothing wrong with it. It's another good part of it is that makes us more willing to accept and lead change.
Right.
So if things are changing, we're not scratching our head saying, wow, what's happening? We're saying, oh, you know what? Let's get ahead of this. I can handle this because I've done all these other changes throughout my life. So it's a great life skill that you can come out and adjust to just about anything.
It's hard to hold on to what some people would perceive as normal. Now, when I lived in California and I sold real estate, I'd see these
define normal in California.
Yeah. This is the far out stretch. There was people that were very, very wealthy in this town called Diablo, and they'd have these, $3, $4, $5 million houses, and you drive by, and the hedges and the front yard and everything was done almost like Norman Rockwell Americana. They were trying to hold on to the 50s, their era, and they were paying damn high money to make that area look and feel like it did back when Richie Cunningham used to ride his bicycle up and down the street. That was my perception of what does this mean? What is the symbology? What is the psychology behind this design? They're not trying to look modern glass,
I see what you're saying.
kind of look, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They tried to keep their neighborhood a Mayberry vibe for some reason, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because we stay with where we're comfortable.
Right.
I read something somewhere and I thought it was true. A lot of times you'll see, if you look at American men, you can tell what era they're from because that's the way they still dress. So if you go downtown and you see a guy wearing white tennis shoes and 501 jeans and oversized shirts tucked in, well, he's a 90s guy. He was watching Seinfeld. That's the era he likes.
Right. You can profile people from that. It's the same thing you can tell when a guy was in the military a lot by their posture, standing in line at a store. Yeah. It's a soldier. That's a soldier. It's just how it works.
Yeah, it's a lifestyle that comes up. But yeah, I see your point. There's, well, the house we're buying now in Fredericksburg is
Mhm.
probably going to be the last house we buy. I'm thinking we're going to live there, but that's just going to be our base of operations. And one of the things, there's several things that we like about it is we can walk out our front door, get on a train, and go anywhere in the world.
That's true.
So we kind of wanted that because you have that in Europe, right? And that's
Yeah,
hard to find here in America. You always need a car in America, but if that house there gives us that opportunity to be able to do that. So we were kind of looking for that because as a retiree from the military, if I lived in Germany, there's a lot of benefits that I would give up. Chief among them is healthcare. Right
yeah.
now I get to go to Walter Reed, a world-class teaching hospital, get my health care without having to pay anything for it. Of course, I
That's,
paid 20 years for it, but okay.
yeah, of course. Well, I mean, for me, my wife and I'd like to live in Spain eventually. And it's affordable. The healthcare, you're not so worried about it. My wife has a portable job. She works remote. She can take it anywhere she wants. And
That's ideal.
part of her signing up for it was, I want to be able to live in Spain. Okay, we do okay with that. Like, but that's one of her situations, which is like, cool. Live how you want to live. Don't wait to live. You understand what I'm saying with that?
Yeah,
Like,
of course.
sometimes you live next to a hub. Like, you're working in DC. You had to go there because that's where your job was. And if you're an officer, you have to go to the open billet, left or right. Do you want Korea, or do you want Germany, or do you want, Iceland? What? You know what I mean? It's like, that's going to change how your life turns out. And a weird thing for me, in A school, there was a guy in front of me. I partied all through A school. We were drinking beer at the EM club. I wasn't old enough, but I, grew up partying in Italy. I knew how to walk around like a guy that knew how to drink like an adult or something. But anyways, they didn't tell us that how well we did in class we'd get to pick our billets.
Would have been good information to have from day one, right?
Right. So I didn't try too hard. I wasn't the lowest in class, but the last California billet was standing right in front of me. This guy's about to pick it. And I go, hey, dude, $50 cash if you give me this and take Philadelphia. You don't want to go to sea anyways, right? That's basically shore duty you're looking at over here. What do you say? I go, you don't want to go to Concord. Blah, no good. Come on. What's up? $50? Cash. Okay. For the $50, I could have ended up in Norfolk. Yeah. Now I live closer to Norfolk, but I spent 32 years basically on the West Coast. And, that one little thing changes how your life comes out, right? I know this is like deep thoughts with Jack Handy here, but you know what I mean?
No, you're right. And my wife and I talk about that all the time. I can look back through my life and I can see decision points that I made, but it's like, okay, I did this at that point, and that's how that directly led through several other decisions that led me here. I wouldn't be married to my wife now if I had not chosen to do German language as my foreign language when I went to the warrant officer course. I initially wanted Russian, but I couldn't get it. So they said, choose something else. So I took German.
Did they send you to DLI in Monterey?
No, they had a school at Fort Bragg they just put up.
Okay.
Because they decided it's not. When I went to the qualification course in the 80s, they didn't have a language school there. But from that then until 91, they revamped the entire training program, and they said everybody who goes through the qualification course will come out with having completed language training. So they set up the school there at Fort Bragg, and that's where I took German. And yeah, but that decision led to a bunch of other decisions.
Right.
It was just like you said, it was opportunities. That $50 got you out there where you wanted to go, and that changed the path of your life.
It did. And if $50,
you used to do fight
MMA
martial
stuff?
arts. Yeah.
I did martial arts. I still do podcasting with the real famous world coach who he trains Habib Nurmagomedov, who's the world champion. Mm-hmm. So the coach has had a lot of champions under him, like Cain Velasquez, Daniel Cormier, and all them. And that's my buddy. So I helped him build his social media and do some filming and stuff for him, just as my hobby. And it's actually done pretty good for him. So, we just have a friendship, and it's good for him to know that there's somebody there. I'm basically, retired from the VA, not unintentionally, but I got 100% from them. So they basically said, you're retired. And so I don't work, so I need a hobby. You know what I mean? And it gave me all this time, and I'm like, I could squander all this time and watch endless TV shows, or I could do the podcast for all you working fellows out there, right? Right.
Yeah.
And,
I think this is better than watching TV.
I think so too, because you go on the cerebral trip when you hear someone like you and me having this discussion. And some of this is just coming out of my subconscious, right? Mm-hmm. But then you listen to it later, you'll get something different out of this conversation afterwards if you listen to yourself. It's very bizarre. I've learned this through podcasting. I did one for the Navy called AEC Stories. So I covered sailors that were like on ships with John Wayne making In Harm's Way, or guys that were on the USS Stark when the Exocet missile hit it, in the 80s, crazy stuff like that. So I've done that, but I need to go to my people, the people that I grew up with, because I've met a lot of movie stars and stuff, but that's because everybody does in California. You just go to Sunset Boulevard, you'll run into like most people you ever saw on TV, and then you realize, oh, they're just humans. They have shoes on and they walk with their feet, right? And then you're over that. But if you're not around it, it seems so grand with all the marketing and all this stuff that, you put too much social value, status value. Yeah, you can be to a point, because if somebody gets you in, they're like a good hypnotist. They take you on a deep journey. Mm-hmm. I've met Clint Eastwood before. Coolest guy in the world. I was like, what's up, man? And he's like, hey, and he wanted to hang out, but I was there to film another guy who was interviewing him for a reality show. And he didn't care about that guy. He wanted to hang out with me, because I was like, I go, if anything, this guy just wants to be a guy at the end of the day. He wants to be normal. He doesn't want to be, oh, I saw your movies. Oh, he's like, oh my gosh, are you reading the recipe to me again? You're like, are you reading my resume at me again? I just want to be normal. And that's what happens, right? So I don't know. I think the Vicenza people are some of the most interesting people to me, because not all movie stars or celebrities or athletes or whatever have had a life like ours. And we've had the same experience that you speak of when we tell a story about growing up. And people are like, man, you're full of shit. You didn't do a karate kick off a gondola when you're drinking Sambuca and, wearing your leather pants and your medallions. I'm joking. I didn't do that, but something on that level. The more I say it,
keep sticking with that story. Yeah, you did it. Come on. You wouldn't bring it up.
Right.
You're waiting for me to drag the story out of you, right?
Right. Exactly. With your interrogation tactics. But it's the one time in band camp is the Vicenza story. That one time in band camp, Vicenza, right? Yeah.
Hey, here's a weird story from Vicenza.
Sure.
And this really happened. And if you ever talk to Jay Jordan, he can probably tell you it actually happened. Actually, Jay was a pretty great guy too. He was in my sister's class, so he was 2 years ahead of me. But one of my best memories of Vicenza is going streaking with Jay Jordan.
There you go.
Yeah, we were, kind of the back area of Vicenza by the pools. And the road would come around, and there were fields and a swamp.
The cornfields, the back roads of Villaggio. Yeah.
Yeah, that road, kind of the perimeter road. I forget how this happened, but we were between some houses with a bunch of other people, and we got dared to go streaking. So we stripped down. We got nothing on but socks and shoes, right?
Yeah.
We go hit the road, and we're jogging along, and Jay's in front of me, and someone drove by as we were streaking. And then we got to a point, we came back, and everyone was gone with our clothes.
Let the game go on. Yeah, okay.
No idea where they went. So we found these swimming pools, inflatable kids pools. We dumped the water out of them and wrapped ourselves up in them and went looking for these people so we could get our clothes back. Of course, they thought it was the funniest thing ever.
Oh my gosh.
But the other story I wanted to tell you was, cameras were really big in Vicenza. Mm-hmm. They had the camera club and stuff, and Mr. Hakim, I think, had a photography class. Well, one day I'm sitting out in front of chorus, waiting for Mr. Tommaso to open the chorus room, and Heidi Gerhardt is sitting next to me. I don't know.
I remember her name. Yeah, I remember Heidi.
So she was sitting next to me, and someone took a picture of us. It was a Polaroid. Click. oh, that's cool. I don't know what happened to this picture. 6 months to a year later, Jay Jordan comes back from Venice. She's like, hey, Norm, look, I found this picture in a bathroom in Venice on the floor. And it was that picture of me and Heidi sitting outside the huts waiting to go in.
Wow.
To her again. I ran into her and
X-Files. Sounds like the X-Files.
Yeah. And I ran into her again in at Fort Bragg. She was working at at Chi-Chi's.
What's that?
A couple in 86 or 87. Yeah, I got in a fight with my first wife after that because, you know, of course, every woman who I ever knew.
They all wanted it. They all wanted to steal you.
Yeah. So, but
what's Chi-Chi's? That sounds suspect.
It's a Mexican restaurant.
Oh,
it's
okay.
It used to be a chain restaurant in the 80s.
Oh, okay. So almost like
she was working as a waitress there, and she came take us to our table. She's like, oh. So what she did was we were waiting at the bar, and she saw my name, and it's like, I'm gonna go seat this guy. Yeah. And we talked for a few minutes, and then my wife and I had some words in the car on the way home, and we didn't talk for a day or two. But anyway, it was good to see her. She was doing well. I haven't seen her since then. She's here's my secret. I love ramen noodles.
Mm-hmm.
She got me started on that. She was babysitting one time, and me and Bob Beckstrom went over to see her, and she cooked some ramen for us. And I just fell in love with the noodles, and I've been eating them ever since. Probably tearing my kidneys apart because of all the salt.
Some of the weird food that you would pick up staying at a friend's house, like someone introduced me to steakums. Remember steakums?
Yeah.
Frozen meat plates that you fry.
It's amazing we're still alive.
I don't know what the hell was in those things. Those are like the Euro meat for making Greek euros or whatever.
Yeah.
That was, I don't know. I don't know.
Back of stuff like, did you ever go to Abano, the teen club trips?
Yeah, I used to train lifeguards there. First, I trained to be one, then I became the trainer with Rosanna Banamego. Yeah. Used to drive all the GIs. My last year there was training the GIs. And one of them was an undercover cop trying to find dirt on me and my great, big, mega criminal background, which I didn't have.
One man crime wave.
Yeah, I was like Don Leonardo, the lifeguard trainer by day, but at night, and I put on my cape and some roller skates and take over the town. I have no idea.
I became a lifeguard there. Between my sophomore and junior year, I did the lifeguard course, and part of it was at Abano. And I have to give a shout out to Melissa Trawick for this because she inspired me to become. She probably doesn't know this, but she was going to be a lifeguard. And Melissa Trawick, she was a rather slight girl, kind of short, and not really big and strong like you picture lifeguards to be. But I thought, you know what, if she can do it, why couldn't I do it? And I think we were in the same class. And see, she's one of my regrets. When I was a freshman, I had an opportunity to go out with her, and I was kind of a stupid kid, so I didn't. I kind of wish I had, just dated her for a couple. She was a nice person. I think I missed out on something with that, but one of my few regrets in life.
Norm, little did you know the girls were all jealous because, and you're like, this place sucks. This place is boring. In your head, your self-talk is totally the opposite of the narrative. Like if there was somebody that it's a movie and they're filming it and like, yes, Norm, he's a stud, but he doesn't know it. Look at all the girls talking about him. He's so unaware. He's absolutely unaware. Nothing's going to happen. Tune in for our next episode when nothing happens again. I'm joking.
No, but to be honest, that actually happened because Ann Emma and Lauren Barham told me that when I ran into them at Fort Bragg. They were like, oh, yeah, you could have had any girl you wanted. And I said, well, thanks for telling me now. I mean, that information would have been useful back then.
Yeah, having that on your resume going to the States, you would have been cooler wherever you landed at boot camp.
I don't know.
I don't know. For me, I didn't get a lot of attention in high school. Mm-hmm. But when I went to my A school, I'm sitting there with some sailors, and we're on Liberty, our day off. We go down to New Smyrna Beach or something like that, or Daytona, and they go, "Hey, Len, why don't you go get us a bunch of girls to hang out with us?" I go, oh, sure, yeah. I go, oh, these guys think I get all the girls. I wonder if the girls think the same thing these guys think. I have no idea. Let's go find out. This is a social experiment. So I just go jogging down the beach. There's like 10 girls. Hey, girls, blah, 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 blah. They all come back. And I go, oh, I guess that's how it works here. I guess I don't have, when you could leave and reinvent yourself in a new town, in a new city, you grow, your perception changes. Because there is a kind of conditioning on Vicenza. But Vicenza was great. And for that, I'm glad I didn't grow up in high school and have a high school pregnancy or some of these other things that could have happened. Who knows? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, it's better. You can appreciate things in time. Maybe you didn't know later. It's like, I get what you're saying though. And you hear it 10, 20 years later, you're like, oh, well, okay. You were really cool in 72 when you did that karate kick during that Led Zeppelin concert, man. And you're like, dude, thank you. You just took me back. I feel good again. The compliment doesn't carry you too much.
Yeah. That's yeah, Vicenza was a great time. Here's a cool part about, well, here's something tragic that I read recently. I was reading an obituary in the Baltimore Sun.
Mm-hmm.
A guy, it's like a half-page obituary. I'm thinking, wow, this guy did some great stuff. And I think about 80% of the story talked about his high school and college athletic career. And then, and then he became a doctor afterwards, was the closeout paragraph. And I thought, wow, it sounds like most of this guy's life happened before he actually lived his life. And afterwards, so when I think about it, it's a lot of people get nostalgic and say, oh yeah, I wish I could go back to that time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's good to do that, but I think it's a wrong attitude to have, because I wouldn't like to, I enjoyed that time, but I wouldn't like to go back there because I've had so many experiences since then and I can do whatever I want now. The only person who puts any restrictions on me is my wife and my conscience.
Right.
And I'm not sure which one is stronger.
Well, I mean,
my wife is.
She's like, I'm not taking any of this.
Yeah.
Well, I have a Russian wife, so yeah, I think I could keep up with you.
Yeah. Well, they have a saying: if at first you don't succeed, next time do it the way your German wife told you to.
Well, listen, my mom's German, my grandma was German. They're very direct. There's no filter. It is how it is. And which in some way, as a guy, you can definitely appreciate it, even though the news isn't good all the time.
Yeah. Hey, something I discovered about my wife, she is funnier in English than she is in German. It's amazing to me. She's got sarcasm down excellent. I mean, I realized that the other night. I was thinking, wow, she just said that. That was hilarious. I mean, she had that spot on. I forget what it was she said. Then I realized, and it was in English. Wow. I said, yeah, comedy in Germany doesn't work that well. Wow, she's really funny in English.
No, the Germans are very stoic. And that's the joke.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all you've got now. I'm supposed to laugh like a clown. No.
Yeah, we had this friend, and she's like that. She's very analytical, smart, really smart, but she's German. And I was telling her this joke. I'm like, okay, Moni, listen up. These two guys are walking their alligator in New York City, and they get on the subway. No, that can't be. Why would someone have a pet alligator? And do they allow alligators on the subway in New York City?
What is the license for an alligator? How many pounds is the alligator, right?
Yeah. So she was really getting into the story before we got to, okay, never mind. No jokes for you.
You were telling, you were on the Comedy Channel, and she was over here watching National Geographic.
Yeah.
Yeah, or the Science Channel. But I get it. So there's a few people that you'd like to see pop up here. Maybe we get Mr. McFadden and a few other friends. I'd like to see, because everybody had different friends where they hung out with. A lot of it was because of proximity. Were you a Villaggio kid? Were you a Torre di Quartasolo kid? Were you someone like me that lived far off away from everybody? Mm-hmm. Were you a Verona kid? Were you from the dorm days on post? I mean, there's all these variations of how you could be there.
Oh, and the dormies were the coolest, weren't they? Man, did they keep the dorm open?
No. Your era was like the end of it. They had that life, though.
No.
They were living like they were in college. But the same thing is, if you ever went to, if you went down to the private schools like Notre Dame in Rome or whatever, NDI, they're like, we go into the kids' dorms and they're drinking booze, smoking cigarettes, making out in the hallway, about to have their third kid. And you're like, what the hell? You know,
Yeah.
it was like really, really, you know, rebellious like that because they were unsupervised rich kids, you know? So that's where a lot of the James Bond women would send their kids to go to those kind of little private schools. But, you know, it's absolutely bizarre. So are you happy being on the East Coast? I mean, after all this time where you've lived or where you're looking to settle down for your base of operations?
Yeah, it was our goal since 2012 to get up to the National Capital Region, just because we visited here in 2012 with our daughter, and we just really liked the area. There's so much that's offered here, and you have access to so many things. We were so happy to get here, and then COVID came before we could do anything.
Wow. Where were you coming from?
Well, I lived in Hohenfels for 15 years, for 13 years.
Mm-hmm.
Then we moved. If you're overseas as a civilian, then you're there too long, then you have to go back. So they have this placement program.
Yeah.
You submit your resume, and then you get picked up somewhere. So I got picked up at Southcom in Miami. So we went to Miami, and quickly decided, yeah, we don't like Florida. Orlando's nice, and St. Petersburg was nice, but Miami's not our kind of place to live.
You got to be that kind. It's going to fit your personality. I mean, I talked to John Bonamega, who was actually coaching the Miami Dolphins and the special teams, and here you are as, you know, one of the coaches of the Miami Dolphins, and he was like, "No, I don't like this place. I want to go somewhere else." So he seemed real happy. He seemed real happy to go to Michigan after that.
Yeah.
And now he's in California with the LA Rams. So that's a pretty interesting thing. He might have been, John Bonamego, I think, was there when you were there.
Yeah, he was. We played baseball together on that first year I was there. He was on the trip to Livorno I was mentioning. I think he was behind the trailer there drinking beer with us too.
Well, the trip to Livorno, I love Livorno. That was my first grown-up trip, me and my buddies. I'll go into that one day, but I mean, just to highlight, my friend threw a Capri-Soni drink at a hippie guy from the top of the Leaning Tower, and it smashed right on his face, and the juice went everywhere. And I said, "Man, you and Galileo are the two guys." Go on.
Livorno, but the base is closing down. They gave the beach away. Yep. I went there for 4th of July 2012 to watch the fireworks, and it was pretty. The year or two after that, they decided they're going to just give the beach back to the Italians. It was rented by most of the places were rented by Italians anyway. The spots on the beach, it was completely different than when we were there.
Well, I used to go there, and I'll go into that in another cast, but I used to go there with my summer hire money, and me and my friends would camp out in the dunes. And we get all the other Livorno kids to bring their beer and food to our campfire. Oh,
yeah.
You know, and then there was camping on the base, which was great, and those pine trees, and you have the little camping ground there when we go to Livorno. It was pretty cool. And it's a beautiful landscape. You know, that was my place.
Yeah. Well, anyway, after Miami, we got there, and I was only there a year. I mean, literally the day I left actually, it was a little over a year. I got there Thanksgiving Day 2018, and I left December 20th, 2019. Mm-hmm. So I started looking for a job and got one up here in Maryland. And, hey, it's close to where I want to be. There's a train connection to D.C. Everything was going good until COVID-19 hit. And, now we've been kind of stuck indoors here. But we've been able to do a few things. Again, it's the area that I like. So
I don't know if you remember David Dinges. He was my age. Yeah, he was.
The name sounds familiar.
They were there a long time. His dad was there too, and they lived near you in Maryland. His brother, I believe, is a PR guy, and David works as he went and worked for as a principal for the Dodd schools, which became Godia, and he was in South Korea and in Germany too. So he might have been a principal where you were in Germany or nearby, and then now he's in. The administrative side and outside of the having to be in the school part. But and then we have other alumni that one gal's in South Korea teaching down there. So a lot of us did like what our parents did. I was just determined to do it my way. I was like Sinatra, so I'm not going to be a teacher. I'm not going to do this. But I end up, years later owning a gym. I'm a PE teacher's son. How ironic is this? I work in the health club business. I work with athletes. How the heck did all that happen? You know what I mean? It's like, as much as I try to be different than my dad, I become,
There's still that connection.
one of my closest friends is a world famous coach. So why is this? You know, it's like, there's that Freudian, there's something in Freud's philosophy. Then you leave the PE teacher's house, you will come back as a PE teacher in 40 years. Whatever, Freud. But I'm just saying, I don't know what that is. So tell me who else you'd like to see on here. You did say earlier, but we've been talking, and then I asked the question again to see who that's.
Yeah, I said Brian and Barbara Dull because I think their stories probably pretty good. You know, met in Vicenza, spent their whole life together. I think that's an interesting story, and they're good people.
I like the different content because I don't bring the same story with everybody. Some guys I partied with on here. Some people I was just in Boy Scouts with. Some people I was on a football team, but they were good kids. So it's not like, and some people were there a year or two before me, or I was a little tiny kid while they were growing up. And then my brother, who's 3 years younger, he's been dealing more with his era because I wasn't really there. So it's an easier anchor, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of hard for you. I mean, how are you going to get someone who graduated in '65 there? You know,
I could hang. We could talk about it. I mean, I speak Italian. I traveled all over. I was there from '72. So, you know, I mean, I don't know if we're going to talk to you like from that era, but I'd be glad to have them on. And I wouldn't mind talking to a kid today as a grown-up saying, hey, what's it like now? What do you think?
Yeah,
you know?
I think that'd be a great thing. And you know, again, the point of a podcast is to get someone talking and just ask the questions. And whether it's a kid there today or, you know, you could ask the same questions for someone who graduated in '65. Tell us about your trips. Where'd you go? Did you go to Havana? Did you go to Florida? I mean, one trip that keeps coming up in the podcast was the famous trip to Naples during the earthquake. And I think my sister might have been on that trip too.
Yeah.
She's in the band. So that was funny.
There's a few things. There's Cavoli sightings. There is, when did you see the general? And he's like, where is Waldo? Well, yeah, I ran into him in AFRICOM, or I was over in Korea and I was, you know, there's that. We were at parachute school together, but there's that part. And then Barry, you know, was a flyer in the Navy. He was an officer flying planes, and he runs into Yvette in Hawaii, right? Yeah. Isn't that crazy? So it's like, wait, you're over here? So we're like ships in the night. But that's the craziest thing is that we all traveled. First, we traveled when we're kids. Then we continued that travel from thereafter. Most of us. Not everybody, but most of us.
Yeah, you're right. So some probably didn't, some more than others. Yeah, I can see that. Oh, here's a connecting thread too. Me, Chuck McIntosh, Barry Pinicky. Chuck McIntosh and Tracy, I forget Tracy's last name.
Galindo?
No. They were Tracy. I want to say Tracy Morgan, but that's not right. That's just, you know, that's not, he wasn't there. Anyway, his name will come, his last name. But I mean, I can picture the two of them together. They're playing pinball in the laundromat. And somehow they get upset, and Chuck puts his hand through the door walking out of the laundromat, the glass door, and he cut his arm right here. Really bad. I think it was this arm, his left arm. He cut it really badly. Well, now we got to get him to the hospital. Okay, so I ran into him in the parking lot, and I mean, he was bleeding. Some GI tried to put a
tourniquet or something,
gripping band on it, and it didn't work. So I grabbed his arm and held it, and I said, "Come on, we'll walk down to the clinic." You know, Barry Pinicky's dad pulls up, and they had that VW microbus, right? I don't know if you remember it, but I remember this. And Barry was in the back, and I'm holding on to Chuck's arm. Tracy's with us. Barry's mom and dad are in front. Barry's sitting in the back. We stopped the bleeding, and his dad's like, "Get in!" And he drives like mad down past honking his horn, going past the theater, gets us to the emergency room. We go in, and I remember they set it down. And when they said, "Okay, release his arm." When I let it go, a spurt of blood went, and then it's like, "Okay, I'm out of here." but you know, that's that kind of connection, a story there where, you know, Barry's dad didn't have to stop. Who knew what, you know, he was probably doing something, but he saw two kids, and I don't know if Barry said something to him. I don't know if his dad said, these kids need help, but there was no question. It was, get in, we're going. Yeah. So
No, his dad worked in medical too, I believe. So he was
that
there.
could be.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one of those things that you start to remember as you go through these things.
Well, what about
times.
do you still have a big boom box? Do you still have do you
No.
still have your super scope with 38 special and Leonard Skinner and whatever else that was playing back then? Earth, Wind and Fire. You
No,
know,
I left that boom box at the supply room that I worked at at Fort Bragg when I left to go to the Q course. So
yeah.
I left it there. I don't know. But funny thing is, a few years ago, I walk into an office in Hohenfels, and there's a German lady working there. She's giving us these forms so we don't have to pay the value added tax. She had the same boombox sitting on a windowsill. It looked brand new. I said, I asked her, I said, wow, how old is that? Oh, I've had that since the 80s. I was like, I had one just like that in high school. And everybody told me what a horrible person this lady was. But after I talked to her about her boombox, she was always nice to me.
You like some music.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, but it's funny. It's funny to me. What kind of boombox did you have? Do you remember?
I think it was a Toshiba.
Toshiba. Okay, did it have little needles that bounce back and forth?
Yeah.
Did it have the whoopers and the tweeters on it? Cassette player?
Yeah, it had
double
the small
cassette?
ones. This one, radio, cassette. It didn't have 2 tape players. It only had 1. Yeah, and I had a camera strap to carry it around.
Oh, it was the camera strap or the guitar strap. Remember that?
Yeah.
People had all these, they look like tie-dye kind of like straps you'd get for the guitar. I remember that. I don't think they were designed for boom boxes, but everybody modified it real quick with the 2 clips on the edge. And the craziest thing about hauling a boom box, I mean, it was great if you're in the North 40 or, at the pool, having some drinks somewhere, out with your friends off somewhere, blasting your music, because you could bring American music with you, because having a car stereo wasn't super popular when you were there and I was there. My dad never had a car stereo put in the car ever. It's like they could steal it. We lived without a car stereo because they could steal whoever they were. One day we put it in there, they're going to steal it. That's what's going to happen. So that never came to fruition. That car went 17 years without a stereo in it. But,
See, that's a Vicenza. That's only a Vicenza story because, you tell people, oh, yeah, I went to high school. No one had a phone.
Well, another trick was like to buy the cigarettes on post and learn that they were currency. So you could buy them, for $3, $2.50 a carton, go down to Venice. Hey, give me a good spot. Give extra care on my car. I remember my dad hooking some cigarettes up to the parking lot attendant in Venice. I mean, that was something that would happen. Did you travel to any other, well, you went to Germany, obviously, you told me, beyond there. Did you take any team club trips outside? Did you go to Greece? Did you go to any ski trips?
Did ski trips up to Garmisch. In fact, that's where I learned how to ski, was at Garmisch. That was my first time on skis there. And it was fun going back there. I mean, while I was in Germany the last few years, I was able to go back and see it's changed a lot. It's not as nice as it used to be, the American facilities there. They're a really nice hotel now, but the ski areas, it was only one slope back then. It's one slope now, but as far as they don't have a bar there, it's not as nice, the relaxing facilities there. But it was good to go back there and see where I learned how to ski. So I went there and I went to Berchtesgaden as well.
I was just in Spain and Portugal with my wife a year ago. Mm-hmm. And at one point I was going to go on the MWR tour because we get ID cards, right? But then I heard that it works in Italy at all the bases, but you can't go to Germany because of terrorist threat levels, or parts of Spain because the base has, rules below the rules. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, yeah, so much for that. You could have done the MWR hotel tour, but in Spain, staying at a luxury hotel was so cheap. Why would I want to stay at some prefab barracks looking hotel? You know what I mean? some Navy lodge or something for,
Yeah, the lodge at Garmisch is really nice. It's like
some are nice, some are very nice. Some are like, what is this, prefab Walmart hotel? Yeah, but yeah.
But retirees can't stay there anymore unless you live in Germany.
See, there's always
it's something with just like if you have a retiree ID card in Germany, you can't go shop at the commissary.
Yeah. You can in Italy, but you can't do it in Spain. You can't do it in Germany. So forget about it. You know?
Yeah, I mean, if you did it, you're supposed to go to a tax office and get a form, and they write down, and then you go turn it into the tax office. So it's a hassle. One of the reasons why we didn't want to retire over there in Germany itself.
If you would have had your privileges like the guys that we saw when we were in Italy, you know, you'd see a guy that was a retired soldier working as a GS9 or 7, stocking the warehouse just so he could have the ID card to go on and off post and, you know,
get the cheap gas.
Cheap gas, cheap cigarettes, cheap food, cheap meat. You could live like a king over there. I mean, the subsidized thing, but that stopped in all the exchanges. They just give you a tax break. And you're like, I could buy that at Costco for the same price.
Yeah, and when you stop doing that GS job, all of that goes away, and everything becomes much more difficult for me. Yeah, you know, if you set up your life so that I know people, they set up their life, and you know, they pretty much live. They don't rely on anything that has to do with the Americans. They're submerged in Germany. Yeah. I look at guys like, you know, Munich had this huge American presence, and they had a huge hospital there in the up through the 80s. But in the 90s, they closed all that down. So think about it. You retired in 85. You thought, hey, I'm going to live here and live large in Munich. And then 6 years later, they shut everything down and went home. And you're like, oh, what do I do now?
Well, that's the thing. Like, okay, so I just moved to close to you. I'm in North Carolina. I like it. I never knew I would. But my wife likes to travel, and, you know, you want to keep them happy, especially if you have a young wife. You're getting older. You're nice. You do what they say. Yeah. Yes, we're traveling. That's how it works. But I will say that her desire to travel forced me to live a better life, because she's like, let's go. And I can't say, no, I already did that, because I did do everything almost, you know. But her taking me to Spain, you know, reinvigorated that desire to go to Europe more. And I've got more ties there. I have more local ties. It's like, I speak Spanish, I speak Italian, it's easy. So, and I do speak German. It's deep in my subconscious. I don't do it anymore, but I know if I go fully submerged in Germany for a week, I'll speak German. And it's weird. It'll reenact.
Yeah.
It'll react. Like if I met your wife, I'd say some basic stuff, but being full immersion, I learned it when I was a child. It's in a deep memory pocket, like to unlock the hard drive. It's funny.
Yeah.
I was there for a week, and all of a sudden I'm like, boom, 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 you know?
Yeah, when you learn foreign languages as a child, this is the science I read about it a few years ago, 20 years ago, but it builds neural pathways in your brain that are always there. So it's easier for you to, if you do it as a child, it's easier to pick it up again as an adult, because those pathways are built in your brain. Yeah, so, okay, that's the science behind it. It makes your brain better, learning a foreign language when you're young.
That's good. So, I'll keep learning more languages. Well, I still haven't learned Russian. My wife's like, it's too hard. We have too many conjugations and all this other stuff. I'm like, I understand some basics, you know, but there's far from basics. There's a his and her and them and they of everything. So it's not just his or hers.
Yeah.
Suo, sua, like, you know, in Italian, right? But it's funny. I don't know. I'm like, okay, I'll learn this stuff. I'm still in my 20s. I'm kidding. You guys won't believe that. It's like another Italian life. It's been really wild to catch up, but it's neat that your memory's so fresh on Vicenza and how much you see from it. It's been pretty impressive.
Well, I tried to share the stories that are family appropriate.
Yeah? We're not going to share the adult bookstore edition? Come on.
No. I'll keep those for when we're not recording them.
Yeah, perfect. Well, guys, I mean, we have to go do the adult bookstore version of the podcast. I'm kidding. We're not.
What I do want to get this out there, though, because there was some misperception about this when I was in high school. I did not do drugs. I drank a lot of beer and wine, but I didn't do drugs.
You had long hair and cigarettes, so like, that guy does heroin. I mean, that's all it took. If you look like the guy that they portrayed in the movie, like if Popeye Doyle was hunting you down, like in The French Connection, if you look like that French guy, which you might have, then you were definitely a drug-pounding hippie guy.
I just had to look, right?
Right. Dude, they thought I was like some mastermind. I mean, we're talking about some far-out stuff here. You know, I would have to have fake news their ass for some of that. But
they chased you out. You would have been happy living your whole life in Italy, but they chased you out because of some nasty rumor.
You know what? The only thing that was about to change is a friend of the family was trying to get me a job to run the Rod and Gun Club Lake, and that would have been like a GS 9 or 10 job, and with no degree and making like 27,000 in Italy in 1987, that would have been like making 100 grand in the States with the ID card privilege and that money and the cost of rent there. You could have rented a place for a few hundred, mil or whatever. If you looked around, that was available, right? So all those options. And then remember how you'd see all those cars at the front base where they were selling them in that one little lot near the post office?
Yeah.
Right between the barracks there, like I'd see stuff that I want. Oh, look, it's a Di Tommaso Pantera. Not a very reliable car, but yeah, you want that one. Anything that looked like it could go fast, I was impressed with it, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, I would have had one of those gray market BMWs. I would have had, a hustle. I would have had a great time at the discos. Eventually things would have changed, but then again, I would have never had my life that I lived and traveled the world, the Pacific side of all that, the California dream. It's funny how that turns out. The $50, the CID chasing you, off base, whatever that may be.
Well, yeah, I wonder sometimes, if I hadn't joined the Army and just said, oh yeah, I'm going to go down to Myrtle Beach and work as a waiter in a beachside club and we'll just see what happens with no plan. Where my life would have taken me. But like we said before, I wouldn't have had the things that I have now. I wouldn't have had the experiences and just a lot of great ones starting in Vicenza. And Vicenza was like the beginning of it all.
Yeah.
And I just loved traveling in Vicenza, and I still have that kind of wanderlust there, but I want to do it in certain ways because we did it in certain ways there. I remember Chuck McIntosh and this other guy, Elliot Carnes. They ran away. They were going to go to Israel and join the Mossad. They ended up.
They wanted to learn Krav Maga. Okay.
And they ended up in Greece, sleeping on the beach and working in a cucumber farm, apparently. But they eventually came back, and that kind of, who knows where that would have led their life. But I'm not the sleep on the beach traveler anymore, but I still like getting out there.
I think it was Monty Stokes that went down there looking for them, or one of these guys. I was talking to him about it. Went and found him and said, hey, why don't you come back already? Saw them in Greece. Like they were, tired of what was going on at home. Elliot Carnes. Yeah.
That's fun. See, there you go. We put another thread together.
Right. That's what I'm trying to reconnect the story. Like, people are finding out what I should have been prom king. No, I'm kidding. But I could have been prom king. That would change my life. That would lower my mortgage payment. No, it wouldn't be a thing.
No, it's just interesting to try to find people and say, hey, let's talk about how you remember Vicenza. See if it's how I remembered it, and bring these times together.
Well, we're piecing it together right now.
Yeah, because there's a flow from the people who were there before me, through me, to the people there, and then there's the people who came after you. Yeah, hey, was it Melanie you said, the last one?
Melanie Dorado, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Melanie, she was in the play with me, right? Mm-hmm. Well, we did this musical review. Mr. Robbins put it on. It was called Kids Come Together. And Steve Gregan was playing, I told you about this witchy woman, and she got up there and danced and stuff. And she was Steve Cavoli's girlfriend for a short period of time. And the reason why I remember that dance so well is because Jim Cavoli said this about it. He goes, I was shocked. I'm watching this, and this girl comes out. Last thing I knew, she was my little brother's innocent little girlfriend, and now she's up doing this dance on the stage to this song. It was incredible. So he really saw that as a change from her, from a little kid to starting to mature, and that's why that memory of that dance sticks in my mind, is because of his reaction to it. Jim, you ought to have Jim Cavoli on too. He was a good person.
It'd be cool to get him on here for sure.
Yeah.
Now I have nothing. Yeah, I want to get more people. It's like who, when, where. I'm working my way through the list, and it's also like social proof. When they see enough of you guys, they're like, oh, finally they raise their hand. Okay, I want to participate. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. But it's funny because the way Melanie described it to me, her father was sitting there all stoic, like, how dare my daughter dance the lambada, the forbidden dance.
Oh yeah, and I was thinking about that as she was describing, you know, how her father was pretty strict and she wasn't allowed to go out. I was thinking, oh my goodness, his head must have exploded. He must have just been fit to burst, you know, sitting there watching this.
She was very sweet, very pretty, very nice. And
Yeah.
so a lot of guys were like in that movie Dumb and Dumber. So
Mhm.
you're saying there's a chance. Well, there wasn't. They're mistaking hello for, oh, you're in love with me. I don't know. I think a lot of guys probably had that moment. There's some people that are very open and friendly, and then somebody's ego puts it into a strange conversion machine and comes out with 50 lira and says, this is what it is. No, I'm kidding. But you get my point, right?
I think Franca Pallotta would also be a good guest. She had an interesting life. I think she has a bakery in North Carolina. In fact, if you were to get in touch with her, you could probably go there and get a discount on bread. I don't know, but
nice.
It looks like a good bakery. So
what part of North Carolina is she in?
Somewhere in the Triangle.
Okay, up by Raleigh.
Yeah, but a little east, like towards
Cary or Apex.
Yeah, somewhere around there. Yeah.
Okay.
Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill is the triangle I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Where do you live at?
I live in the Outer Banks.
Yeah, that's right. You told me you do.
On the beach.
Yeah.
Kill Devil Hills.
That's right. You told me Kill Devil Hills. I went there once. It's a nice place.
To me, I talked to one of our classmates. Well, he was younger. He went to the same school. He wasn't there when you were there, but he's like, yeah, man, if I could, live where you live, I'd probably live there, even though he lives in Raleigh. He thinks higher of this place. And I'm like, wherever I'm at, I'm so used to moving. It's hard to say this is the place on anywhere, even though it's amazing.
Yeah.
We live on the beach. What did you want your whole life? You want to live on the beach in a beautiful house by the beach and be able to go to the beach every day? Okay, you have it. There, done. Okay. So if your thing is like, if I could only fly in a helicopter, be in a big jet plane, have some Versace medallions and a $2,000 suit and whatever the hell else weird stuff you want on your list. There you go. You have it. Now what? And that's how life is, right?
Yeah. You always have to keep. Well, yeah, exactly. Once you get there, okay, what do we do now?
Right.
What's next? Some people are like, this is it. I'm great. My house is going to look like it did when June Cleaver lived across the street for the rest of my life. Like you saw in that one place in California.
Yeah, they're just holding on to the past with their pure grip and millions of dollars to keep things the way they were.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, you know what? Can't fault that to keep things the way they were.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I still want to travel once things change a little bit. Like if Europe opens back up, I'll go back for sure. And, I'm probably going to go to Dubai again. My friend was going to have me come out there. And, that's a cool place, but I still want to see more. I'm not done because the moment you're done, you're done. I can't just sit in the house and say, this is over, man. So there's a good chance that I'll drive by anybody that watches this podcast house and drop in and say hi if, they want to hang out, whatever. It's just, I just went through the whole States. I saw the Stokes brothers, it's like I met some other people in North Carolina, Eric Silseth. I'm trying to meet up with Barry. He's kind of like busy this weekend, so that might not come together, but I might go visit him. And so trying to tie it all back together. And then who knows if I'm still here in the beach, maybe you and Teddy will come down here in the summertime.
Yeah, is that far?
No, it's a
cool.
beautiful place,
Yeah, I'm trying to think of some of the, did you know Julie Kenchlow?
Yeah.
Yeah, she would be a good person, I think, to have on because, I'm friends with her on Facebook. I see some of the stuff she's posting. She's doing well. Has a nice family, it looks like. I mean, I have to respect it because one of her sons is a Green Beret as well. So, hey, he took the right path in life.
Nice. Well, I mean, I remember a lot of guys were infatuated with her. She had one of the most beautiful girl reputations. I don't remember her that well because she was older than me, but I'd hear the other guys like, oh, Julie Kinchlow, she's so pretty. I'd hear that. Yeah, so yeah.
And you're absolutely right. Kamaki Rathburn's sister was like that too.
Yeah.
And Liz Miracle would be good too. Yeah.
I think Liz coordinated one of the reunions.
Yeah. Oh, did she?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw her at the reunion in Vicenza in 2007. She gave me one of the best compliments ever. She said, I never really thought you'd be a guy who would go into the Army. I said, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, they thought you were this rocker guy because you were going with the look, but who you were as a person, but you were also diverse. You were into the thespian thing, the acting. You were into the Boy Scouts, which is building a solid foundation. You might have looked like a Mick Jagger type, but the truth is once you had the foundation of the Boy Scouts, it's kind of hard to fail because you got proper formative points, bullet points, and goal setting and things that are years ahead that if you didn't take that, then you might wander like, what? Doing heroin under the bridge in a van? That sounds so sexy. I want to do this with people. You know, I want to go everywhere, maybe play a harmonica, do heroin in a van. I'm joking. But, well, perception, because you had the long hair thing, you smoked cigarettes. They thought if you smoked and you had long hair, you did drugs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's one of those things that you say, hey, this is a decision point in my life. One winter, it's probably the end of my freshman year, or in my sophomore year, just after my birthday that year. So it was in December. Mr. Robbins was going to take us up to Monteberco. We were going to hike up to the top. Yeah. And it was me, Mr. Robbins, Jay Jordan's little brother, Kevin Timmer, and Curtis Hicks.
Kevin Timmer. That was a buddy of mine. He was cool.
Yeah, and what was Jay Jordan's brother's name? Kerry Jordan? Is it Kerry? Anyway,
we'll figure it out.
We went up there and started. Some of the guys, Curtis Hicks was not properly prepared, and we got stuck in the snow, and we ended up spending the night in a refugio, a little mountain hut. Built a fire. There were blankets in there. You know, we slept warm and safe that night. We didn't come home, so they activated the mountain rescue team to come out and look for us the next day. But the next morning, we were walking out, and we're getting ready to walk down, and Mr. Robbins tied us all on a rope. We all had ice axes, and he looked at me and he said, "Okay, I want you to lead us down." And it was like, well, for me, that was a decision. That was an event in my life that changed the direction of it, because for the first time, I'm out there on the snow in front, and I'm thinking, you know what? I can do this. I can lead the way down from this mountain. So that was a good, and it's a Vicenza moment with people from Vicenza. And every year after that, we would hike back up to that and spend the night in that hut.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, but that was a point where I decided, you know what? Yeah, I can do these type of things. I can lead people. I can do that.
Well, it's no wonder you became Green Beret then, right?
I don't know if that was it, but yeah. But
well, I mean, there's some people that are preemptively wanting to be special forces. There's people that make that path after they enlist and say, why not? Let me see how far I can take this. It just depends how you do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I never would have guessed that my friend, a Navy cook, would become a Green Beret.
Yeah, that does. I mean, if you thought my story was a stretch, his is one where you're like, oh, come on, you're going all Steven Seagal on us, aren't you?
Yeah, right. He's like, that movie plus my desires equals Navy cook plus becoming Green Beret. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. And we'll make up some fake Aikido moves because they don't really work.
Steven Seagal changed my life.
Well, it's been an awesome podcast, Norm. And I think people are going to dig it. I think we pushed out about 2 hours. That was pretty good. We get the world record.
Okay, sorry to talk so long.
No. Everybody tune in for more.